Will Robinson here from Robinson's Auto Tools and Time.com. We're back today with this 2013, I believe it is, GMC Acadia. Customer's complaint is that there's something going on with the temperature gauge. Goes high, goes low. Check engine light is on. They're pretty sure it's in relation to it. So let's plug in the scanner, see what we have in there. So as you see, we have a 2013 GMC truck with a 3.6. You're going to go to diagnose. So right away we see that we have two faults in the engine control module. And we'll let this thing finish out. Alright, scan is complete. Everything looks pretty good. We have two codes within the theft deterrent module, but for today's demonstration we'll go here. We're going to look under the trouble codes. We're going to read the codes. We're going to go to current. Okay, we have a P0118 engine coolant temperature sensor circuit high voltage. P0119 engine coolant temperature sensor circuit intermittent. Well, that might give us some direction. I want to go to live data. We're going to go under engine, go to engine coolant temperature. We'll go to intake air temperature sensor too. I guess there's two of them maybe. Ambient air. I think I'm good with that for now. I also want to bring down intake air temperature. You see the vehicle's been running for a little bit now. So our coolant temperature is at 98. Intake air temperature is at 111. Let's see what intake air temperature 2 is. It should be right around the same. 113. Now let's look at the ambient air temperature. We can see that's at 80. But what I'd like to do is start the vehicle up. Our main focus is going to be on this engine coolant temperature. I'm not sure if I should just blow that up. Maybe we will once it starts giving us problems. And then he said this is intermittent, so we might not see it right away. And I'm afraid if I go underneath there and start wiggling wires, we might fix the problem. So I don't know if I should just take it for a ride and see if I can get it to act up. It is lunchtime here. All right, here we go. I got everything. I also got a recording going on this, so if I miss something while I'm driving, I'll keep you guys posted. Well, guys, I believe I just watched it drop out for the first time. So another reason for doing this is because I wanted to see if it was just a correlation with the dash or if it was also on the scan data. And as we just seen, it fell out, and that's monitoring the coolant sensor directly, I believe. This is all process data, so you gotta take a little bit with it with a grain of salt. However, once I pull that data back, you can see right now it's back to stable. But she definitely did drop out, and I watched the gauge fluctuate a little bit. It wasn't much. It didn't go down to 160 like it. Oop, there it goes again. So we definitely have something going on here. What it is, I'm not quite certain yet. But I'm going to finish going to get my lunch. All right, guys. So this is exactly what the customer was stating. The engine's hot, AC's off, but however you look at it, the temperature and the engine is showing totally cold. Come over to the scan data, and she's just stuck at 192.2. All right, guys, we're back at the shop. Coolant temperature is still showing high. First thing I want to check to make sure we're not low on coolant. As you can see, the coolant overflow reservoir is at least filled. That's not to say that we're not low when somebody added it, but it looks like it has the proper fluid in there, so that'll lead me to believe that it's still at the proper level. I'm going to try not to bother this too much while it's acting up, but I'm going to see if I can pop this cover off. I think I got to remove the oil cap to do so. Hopefully she doesn't have too much blow by, but we should be good. Yeah, we're good. Put this oil cap back on. But no, she's still showing low. Make sure we don't see any signs of critters. I have some signs there. Your sensor is located right down here under this foil cover. We're going to have to pull that up, but what I want to do is wiggle that around a little bit just to make sure. Now you get a shot of the plug for the sensor. I'm not seeing any obvious damage to the harness. So what I'm going to do is shut the vehicle down and let it cool off at this point. And even with messing with the harness and everything, we're still not reading correctly. So we're just going to shut this down. So next, what we're going to do, we also want to inspect the harness because these are also known for melting the harness a little bit. So we're going to go in there, we're going to unplug the sensor. It's going to be hard for me to show you because of the location it is. All right, next what we're going to do is go down there and unplug this harness. It's going to have one of those locking tabs, and I'll give you a better shot of that once we pull it up. But it's pretty straightforward, like many I've shown you on these videos. There's a better shot of it. We'll get in there with a pick, and it'll pull up, you know, maybe a 1/4 inch at most. So we'll get a pick, we'll get behind that red tab, we'll pull it up, you should feel it click, and then at that point you should be able to push in on a tab. And we'll get that harness off, and we'll inspect the harness before going any further. I'll be using a long reach pick for this demonstration, and I hope I do it justice because it's not that easy. But we'll get back here. And right there you can see that we just pulled her up. It doesn't take much, but at that point we should be able to push in on a little locking tab. I just want to make sure I'm up far enough. All right, then I know it's going to be tricky to see, but I'm going to get down there and I'm going to squeeze that tab. We're going to shake the plug a little bit, and then we're going to lift up gently. At this point, we should be unplugged. We can pull the harness up. I slide this protector back down so we get a good look at this harness, because they do have a problem with the melting due to the exhaust temperature. So I'm just going to look behind this a little bit. Maybe it's worth opening up this insulation real quick just to inspect that portion of the harness. If that's okay, then 9 times out of 10 it is the sensor. But we don't want any comebacks, so we're going to do our best to roll everything out while it's here. Tape is cheap in comparison to people's time and people's efforts, so I don't want to make any wrong calls here. And plus it helps me demonstrate some known causes and rule them out the proper way since I'm doing the video demonstration. Okay, the tape doesn't look compromised. Everything looks good. The insulation appears to be in pretty decent shape. Now I'm going to push it back through, grab the harness, inspect it from this end, make sure nothing looks too spread. And everything looks pretty good. I'll take and reinstall this sleeve, just like that. We'll put some tape back around it. I ran out of black tape, but somebody will know I was here. There's still electrical tape nonetheless. This will pull back out for when we're ready for it. This next demonstration is going to be really hard to see down in there, but you can almost see the tip of the sensor. You're going to need a 19 millimeter. It needs to be deep, and it can't be any, you know how some deep sockets are stepped on the inside? Well, the sensor will not fit in if they are. What I also do is I take the wires and I just relax them over the dipstick like so to give me a clearer path to the sensor. I'm not sure if I can get this with a long extension or not. Yeah, once it breaks loose, it's pretty loose. So have the new sensor ready because you're going to lose some coolant. That's if you choose to do it in this manner. You're going to definitely lose some coolant. So we'll try to be quick. Make sure the washer comes off with it. Make sure the new one matches up. And then I'm just going to try to be as fast as possible, get the new sensor in there. And one good thing is that we know that there was fluid at that point, so, and the engine wasn't all that hot. All right, now we'll get on that, tighten her down. Doesn't have to go super tight. As you notice, the other one wasn't that tight. So once it's down snug, just give it a nice little snug. And you don't want it to fall out, but you don't want to break anything either. I know it's gonna be hard to see down there, but you can see the new sensor. It's clocked in a little bit of a different orientation, but that's okay. At this point, we could take and pull everything off. We could run this harness back down the way it was, just like so. Now I can reach down there and plug it in. This is your plug. Make sure your tab is still pulled back. Sometimes that could get pushed down in the mix of everything. There you go. All right, now we're just gonna take and slide this cover back down. We want to make sure that sensor is protected from the manifold. That's the whole reason behind this. So what I do is I pull up on the harness a little bit and push down on that piece at the same time. That way I know it's not just bulging up underneath, and that she's actually in there good. Okay, so now everything is back in its original location. One thing I noticed is that this dipstick's actually missing its retaining bolt. All right, we lost a little bit of coolant, but not a whole bunch because we were fast. Just gonna turn the key on. Well, that's a positive sign. At least it's not stuck on 160. And take and start it up. Hey, the check engine light went out. Supposed to be pretty straight line and slow, gradual movements. As the vehicle warms up, you should see the temperature rise. They shouldn't drop out like we've seen those huge dropouts before. That's a bad indication that something is opening, an open circuit of sorts. So now we're going to keep an eye on this. Engine coolant isn't super low. I don't believe we lost a whole lot. So we're going to go take it for a ride and we'll top it off when we get back. Just as a visual demonstration, I got my bucket underneath there a little late, but that's pretty much the amount of coolant we lost. It's actually the next morning. I had to wrap it up for the day yesterday a little early. Had some things to do with the kiddos. I shouldn't say early, it was actually on time. It's somewhat of a cold start. I drove it here this morning, but I did want to take you guys for a test ride and watch us go through the heat up process. These vehicles warm up relatively fast. So I'm just gonna keep you guys down here for a little bit. That way you can see the transition. All right, I just got where I was going. I got to run in the parts store here. I got to pick up some hardware for a motorcycle actually that I'm working on. Needs a couple little things for inspection. So yes, I also do motorcycle inspections. If you guys are ever here in Pennsylvania and you want to stop by for inspections, some service, or just to say hi, I'll always be around for you guys. So far, everything is looking good. It's only been a few minutes, a few miles, but we'll keep on pushing it and see what happens. Now that I feel that everything's good, I'm going to take and reinstall the cover. I topped off the fluids. Like I said, I changed the oil while it was here. I'm just going to take and pop this cap back off. Install this cover. You should feel it click into place. Put our cap back on. We are good. All right, guys, we just got back to the shop. Everything is looking good. The AC is blowing nice and cold. It's no longer disabling. I'm sure that was pretty inconvenient for your customer, but it's not necessarily always a problem with the AC if you have a code that can potentially, especially cause overheating issues or whatnot, or if the vehicle thinks it's overheating, it'll just disable certain functions, and that's one of the things it'll disable. Yes, a little inconvenient, but at the end of the day, we'll be returning the car back to them in a better condition than we received it. At least that's the goal. So that's all we could do, is the best we could do, and at the end of the day, it's still a machine and it is what it is, but we'll keep on pushing forward.